Good evening. Thank you for joining me for my weekly Ichimoku Cloud chart wrap-up. So I'm going to get started right away and go over crude on the weekly time frame, except I have it on the daily. Let's go to the weekly. So looking at crude on the weekly, we see that CL is overall bearish in Ichimoku terms. But we had, last week we got a close above the Tenkan Sen, which was some bullish progress, and then, or 2 weeks ago, and then last week we got an open and a close above the Tenkan Sen. So currently we have some sideways price action in crude. As long as it holds the Tenkan Sen at 48.32, we can expect potential higher prices up towards. We see some horizontal resistance here around the 55 area, but then we have pretty much clear for a move to 64.14, where we should find resistance on CL. Let's just look, since I had the daily open before, let's look at the daily for the fun of it. We see that after a breakout over the cloud, we then saw sellers come in at around 53.50 area and sold back into the cloud, but we were able to hold the Tenkan Sen support inside the cloud. We were unable to get back over the cloud, but then on Friday we were indeed able to bounce off the Tenkan Sen after testing below, probably on the rig count news. We were able to close outside the cloud. But if we look forward on the daily chart, we see that we have a descending cloud. So price could indeed follow the cloud downwards. So let's go back to the weeklies, and we will look at ES, S&P 500 futures. This chart is overall bullish in Ichimoku terms. After a test below the Tenkan Sen, we closed back over the Tenkan Sen, so we notice that the Tenkan Sen is also pointing upwards. We have a fair amount of horizontal resistance here that we'll need to break through in order to make new highs on the ES, but overall the chart is bullish. We do have the cloud flattening out as we go forward in time, and we also have a dip in the cloud coming up, so it's really important for us to hold the Tenkan Sen at 2075.13. If we are unable to hold the Tenkan Sen at 2075.13, we could go back and test the 2040 level, this horizontal support level, and then if we lose that area, we could go back down and test the 1965.38 Kijun Sen below, and then potentially the 1920 cloud below that. I don't necessarily expect that much of a pullback, but even if we did have that much of a pullback, it would not be bearish. Yes, it would still be bullish, even if we pull back all the way to the 1920 area. Or it's not actually exactly 1920. Let's look. And I apologize, I don't have a cursor. Hopefully you can see my crosshairs, which might help. There's a bug with this broadcasting software and Macs that prevent me from having a cursor. So it's actually more like the cloud is at around 1914. So we could indeed pull all the way back to 1914 without the ES becoming even neutral. It would still be bullish. So let's look at the DOW Futures, the YM. Not the YW, the YM. DOW Futures are also bullish, very similar to the ES chart. We see that we had a close above the Tenkan Sen. The Tenkan Sen is at 17.868, so we're going to hope that if you're bullish, that we hold that level. Next up, we'll look at the Russell. Russell is overall bullish in Ichimoku terms. Very nice uptrend you see here. We've been, for the last several weeks, we've been trading above the Tenkan Sen, which is bullish. The Tenkan Sen is rising. Last week's close was not at highs, but above these prior closes. So very bullish for Russell as long as it holds the 1225.60 area. We do have, however, a flat cloud below in this area on the Russell. So potential danger zone as we go into April and May, later in April and May. If we do lose the Tenkan-sen and sell down towards the Kijun-sen, we do have some horizontal support around 1160, but then if we were to lose the 1151.90 Kijun-sen level, then we could test this flat cloud. Once we get into June, the cloud is rising, so looking better. Let's look at gold. Gold is bearish under the cloud. Last week we put in a range trade between the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen. The Kijun-sen, the pink line, is bear crossed over the Tenkan-sen. Overall bearish chart, prices under the cloud. We did see the Chikou span move into this candle, heading higher. It could go as high as 1230 area before it hits the resistance of these other candles and the Tenkan-sen. But for now, the range for gold is between 1219.10 and 1193.80. And this is also a long leg spinning top type candle, so we could see gold sell lower. So as it could be a trend change marking candle after this nice uptrend that gold has had. So be very aware of the 1219.10 area and the 1193.80 area, and if we lose either of those, it will signify the direction for gold for this week. Looking at silver next. Bearish under the cloud. We were able to hold the Tenkan-sen and the Kijun-sen this week on silver, which is significant. They are both sort of confluent at the 1630 area. So if you're bearish on silver, you need to see that 1630 area taken out. Otherwise, we will continue to chop sideways. As far as being bullish on silver, really needs to get above 17 again to get bullish on silver. Let's see. Let's go over the 30-year Treasury bonds. We had a bad bond auction late in last week, which caused some significant selling after a very bullish uptrend for the bonds, and we got a new fast time frame downtrend. We see a lower high and a lower low was put in. So at this point, it looks likely that we will continue moving down towards the flat Tenkan-sen at 155.10. At which time we could get a pullback to breakout, bounce higher, because overall this chart is extremely bullish. Let's look at the 10-year ZN. Also bullish in Ichimoku terms. We do have a bear cross, however, on the last candle after this bearish momentum. So we do have support at the Kijun-sen below at 128.11, and then below that at 128 even at the Tenkan-sen. And if we do sell lower, we note that we do have, after this sort of dip in the cloud, we do have higher cloud support coming up in the next couple of weeks. So if we do for some reason lose this Tenkan-sen at 128, we could find support at the cloud coming up at 127. Next up, let's look at the dollar. The dollar is extremely bullish. After we came down, we put in a pullback to breakout type pattern. We bounced off the Tenkan-sen after a close under it, and then retook the Tenkan-sen and went higher. So right now this chart is fully bullish with support at 97.31 if we get any selling. Let's look at coffee because everyone wants to know. Last week we saw some selling after we came and almost touched the Tenkan-sen at 149, but overall this chart is bearish in Ichimoku terms. Prices has been under the Tenkan-sen for quite some time. So even though it looked like we were going to get some higher prices, you know, we were thwarted and finished down here, like inside the last candle. So seeing typical bear flag action, but we do still have a flat Kijun-sen above, and that could be attractive. Since the Tenkan-sen is now tipping downwards, it's not as attractive as if it was flat, but we might have some mean reversion. If we do go lower, we might get an oversold situation on coffee. But for now, bearish. Let's look at the Nikkei. Nikkei put in an extremely bullish candle last week, new highs. So this is a beautifully bullish looking chart. If we do get a pullback, we have nice support at 18,843. I'm going to just look at a couple stocks everyone wants to know. Apple. Fully bullish on the weekly, came down, put in a pullback to breakout pattern, and continues to close over the Tenkan-sen. No reason to think that Apple is not going higher here. I'm going to take a look at Google. Google is trapped inside the cloud, so price action is neutral. Came down and tested the Kijun-sen down here at 537.06 and is yet to test the Tenkan-sen at 555.38. So until Google can get over 555.38, price action is to be considered neutral. It's important for Google to stay in the cloud. When we open next week, we want to see it maintain this either inside or above the cloud. Otherwise, next week it will be under the cloud and have only the Kijun-sen potentially to support it. Everybody was talking about Facebook on Friday. Facebook is still fully bullish over the cloud. Could pull back all the way to 79.76 and still be fully bullish. I would be cautious if I was long Facebook and it lost the 79.76 area. Let's look at Twitter. Twitter doesn't have much of a cloud chart going on at the moment. So let's look at the daily rather than the weekly. Twitter on the daily is looking very bullish. Needs to hold the 51.08 level in order to continue going higher. I think I didn't do the NASDAQ. Let's catch up with the NASDAQ and then I'm going to wrap it up. NASDAQ is in a nice bullish uptrend above the cloud. If we do get a pullback, it could come down and test the Kijun-sen and cloud confluence at 43.65. Might as well actually let's hit the euro and then I will sign off for the evening. Euro is still in a downtrend under the cloud. We can expect we do have a little bit of a bottoming tail on euro, but unless we can get back above the Kijun-sen at 106.78, we're still looking very bearish for the euro. And so that's about what I have for this week. If you are interested in Ichimoku charts and you want to learn more, I have a chat room where I go over Ichimoku trades. We trade live futures in the chat room. We trade ES, CEL, SI, TF, NASDAQ, go over some stocks as well. I have a trial right now where you can sign up for a week for $20. Check it out and see if you like it. And if you want any more information about me or what I do, you can visit my website at CloudChartist.com. Thanks for tuning in, and good luck trading this week.